Hello everyone, my name is Anshika Jain and I am working as a legal intern in Lexis & Law Company for the month of July. I hope all of you are staying safe and doing well. Today I have come with another very important topic, that is the separation of power, and it's very importantly been quoted by Charles T. Montesquieu. He stated that if the legislative and executive authorities are one institution, there will be no freedom. There won't be freedom anyway if the judiciary body is not separated from the legislative and executive authorities. So now let's begin with the detailed analysis of the separation of power in India. So the separation of power is a term for federative and democratic state management. The state is separated into three branches under this rule. It includes the executive, judiciary, each with distinct factors and responsibilities, so that one branch doesn't get conflict with the work of other two branches. In a free democracy, the powers and functions of these branches must be distinct and divided according to the theory. To avoid any kind of conflict, these organs work and fulfill their jobs independently without interfering with one another. Now, it also means that if there is any kind of conflict, they will work and fulfill their jobs independently without interfering with one another. It means that executive has no legislative or judicial powers against the legislatures, and the legislature has no executive or judicial authorities, and the judicial has no legislative and executive authorities. Now let's discuss it with the emergence of the theory, or let's discuss to the background regarding the separation of power. The theory of the separation of power, its times of the ancient times, Aristotle emphasized the concept of separation of power in his work Triad Politics, suggesting that every constitution they should have a diversified form of government consisting primarily of three branches: deliberative, public officials, and judiciary. And also a French jurist, Baron de Montesquieu, he coined the term trias politica, or the idea of separation of power, in the 18th century. He placed a greater focus on the judicial branch independence. He explained that rather than being apparent, the judiciary must be genuine. One organ or one person, in his opinion, should not perform the functions of all. In his famous book, The Spirit of Laws, 1748, he argued that the executive should not exercise legislative or judicial powers because it could jeopardize individual liberty. He also said that the legislative branch should never wield executive or judicial powers because this could lead to an arbitrariness and as a result the loss of liberty. The executive branch of government should not be exercised by the judiciary because the judge would behave like a dictator. Now let's understand the importance or the significance of the theory. To begin with, it seeks to eradicate arbitrariness, totalitarianism, and tyranny in favor of a more accountable and democratic administration. Second, it also inhibits the abuse of authority within the government's many organs. Each domain of government is given specific bounds and boundaries under the Indian Constitution, and they are expected to carry out their functions within those parameters. Thirdly, that it also ensures that all the branches of government are held accountable for their actions. Fourthly and lastly, the separation of power maintain a balance among the three branches of government by dispersing the powers among them and preventing power concentration in one branch that leads to arbitrariness. Now let's discuss the constitutional provisions in India regarding the separation of power. Although not explicitly stated, the theory of separation of power is a part of Constitution essential framework. A bill that violates its principle cannot be passed by the legislature. The Constitution expressly mentions the functions of the three organs. Take a look at some of the Constitution articles that proposes the separation of power. Let's start with first articles, that is Article 50. It talks about that it imposes a duty on the state to keep the judiciary and executive distinct. It is not enforceable, however, because it falls under the DPSP, so it is not a specific article but it falls in the directive principles of state policy. The next is Article 123. That says that the president, as the country's executive leader, has the authority to exercise legislative powers under certain circumstances. The next is Article 121 and 211. It states that the legislatures, they are prohibited from questioning the conduct of the Supreme Court or a High Court judge. They can only do so if the President is impeached. And the last one is Article 361. The President and the governors of the US, they are immune from legal actions. Now let's discuss the important judgments. The Constitution in the case of I.C. Golaknath versus State of Punjab, it puts the Constitution of Union Territories, Union and State into reality. It has also three major pillars: the judiciary, executive and the legislative. It clearly defines their jurisdiction and expects them to carry out their duties without interfering with those of others. They must function within their scope. Now let's conclude that in modern countries like USA, Nepal and France, the idea of separation of power cannot be implemented in its strict definition. However, this idea is still relevant today. Our government is a well-organized organization that is difficult to separate into sections that are watertight. Though this doctrine is unworkable in its rigid interpretation, its success lies in the emphasis placed on the checks and balances that are necessary to prevent corrupt government and misuse of power by the various government institutions. I hope all of you have understood this topic clearly. That's all for today. Thank you.